Welcome everybody. Thank you for tapping in. If you're just coming in, please hit the like button. Also share, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps in the platform. For all my loyal subscribers, I want to thank you so much for your support, your kind words of encouragement, and all your critiques. Well, folks, we back to another one. We on part 16 of my prison journey. Been busy for the last few days, but I hope you checked out the video I dropped on the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March. What a magnificent event. You know, one of the greatest ever accomplished in the history of America. The minister called for 1 million black men, and nearly 2 million showed up. And there was not one argument or one fight. It was so peaceful. Beautiful, beautiful event. So hope you check that video out. Please like and share also with that video. So we on part 16, my prison journey. We starting trial. You know, we kind of wrapped up all the little preliminary things that, we had to take care of before the trial. And, for the most part in my trial, it was a lot of forensic specialists coming up, giving a breakdown of, the drugs, even forensic specialists dealing with criminology, or whatever you want to call it. They came up there, explained certain things with, dealing with the criminal mindset. And, of course, the detectives that were involved in my investigation. The only witnesses, strangely enough, that didn't show up were, the confidential informant. The person that I supposedly directly made the sale with didn't show up because his identity was not disclosed. So we wasn't allowed to cross-examine him on the stand because they weren't going to use him. They weren't going to bring him to the trial to testify. And of course, the female I went to the grand jury, not to tell on me, but, whatever information that she gave there in terms of her answers to the questions, they were unable to locate her at that time. So what they did was they used not the full testimony that she gave, just a portion of her testimony at the grand jury. And I want you to take a guess which portion she gave. Not the portion that said I was not living there. Not the portion that said she wants to plead the fifth. But the portion that was admitted for the government to use at trial was the portion where she said, yes, he did stay there some nights and he did have clothing that he had there, for the nights that he did stay there at the house. See, and yes, the clothing in the closet did belong to him. So, of course, that's what they want to use. So, we going through the trial, and, I just got to say this, watching my mom come up every day to trial was a little tough for me. I didn't want her to be up there at the trial, but it's just something, about about motherhood that, they don't care what's going on. It could be a tornado out there, a hurricane watch, whatever extreme weather conditions you can imagine, mama love is going to find a way to make it to her children, in their times of need. Doesn't make a difference. So, she came up every day to trial, and, just for her sitting there hearing all this testimony, hearing, the lifestyle that I was involved in, because this is not what she wanted for me. This is not, or this wasn't the way that she raised me to be a criminal. So for her to hear that, I gotta imagine that was painful for her, because I know it was painful for me. But nonetheless, she was there through, every day of my trial. They brought up, a lot of ugly things, not things that I was guilty of, but of course, their belief that I was involved in certain other crimes that was committed in that city, and things of that nature. So, it was tough for her to sit through there and watch that. And of course, at the time that my trial was going on, which was in November, the month of November, it was pretty close to the Thanksgiving holiday season. So one of the things you want to be careful of when preparing for trial is you want to try to not get a date that's close to the holiday season, because what happens is that if closing arguments are done and then the case is given to the jury and now you're running into the holiday season, in my case Thanksgiving, which was I believe 2 or 3 days after the case was given to the jury. They were given the instructions, and 3 days later was gonna be Thanksgiving. So what do you think their mindset is when they're in the jury room? You know, they may be looking over the evidence. Hey, what y'all think? Well, I think this sticks. I think this is a little shaky here. But their real mindset, if they being real with themselves, is, hey, look, man, let's hurry up and get this out the way, and Thanksgiving coming. I gotta make me a trip. I gotta be ahead of the game because I done booked my flight or whatever it is that they plan. So their mindset is not completely in evaluating the case as they should. So before the trial started, we have requested to the judge to move the trial back to a later date because of the holiday season. Of course, it was denied, as everything else always gets denied in the feds. It was denied, and the judge said he can't do that because he has a full calendar and it's going to mess up his calendar. So got denied. So when they were given the instructions, they went back to deliberate. I was taken down to the holding cell, and because I want you to keep in mind their mindset going into the deliberation room and the holiday season right around the corner. I was taken down to the holding cell that's in the courthouse, and the marshals explained, they bring me something out to eat and things of that nature. And I was like, I'm fine, just something to drink. I'll be cool with that. So by the time he put me in the cell, he went, got me something to drink, and not very long after that, I don't remember the exact amount of time, but not very long after that, I heard the beep at the door, because they, you can hear when they getting ready to come out, because it's like some type of card they scan onto the door, and it rings off a bell, and you know that the door is getting ready to get open. So came, and I'm hearing a bunch of footsteps. That means that they coming to get me. So he said, you ready? I said, yeah, I'm ready. What's going on? He said, well, they reached the verdict. I just started smiling. I said, hey man, let's do it. Went down there. There was these two jurors that I was kind of looking at the whole trial. They were young guys. One, he owned a tire shop slash like a shop where they install radio systems or music systems inside your car. He had one of those type of detail shops. And then another one had he owned a recording studio. So, during the trial, they were coming in every day, kind of looking at me while they walking in, smiling, nodding their head, So in my mind, I'm, thinking we making a little connection here, like, hey, man, look, help a brother out, man. Help a brother out, I need help. So I was kind of feeding off of that through the whole trial, which was my trial was, I believe, 6 days, something like that. And every day they came and they kind of looked at me, smiled, and I looked back, smiled. I'm like, okay, we connecting, we getting somewhere. But this particular day, when they when they came in after they reached the verdict, they didn't even look at me. They both put their head down as they walked into the jury box and didn't even look at me. I already knew what it was. I just was smiling, not, cheesing, but within myself, I was smiling, and I was prepared to deal with whatever was gonna come my way, because, you make your bed, you gotta be able to lay in it. So anyway, read the verdict. I was found guilty of all 5 counts. They had to go back in and deliberate. Well, I was convicted on all 4 counts, all 5 counts, pardon me. But they had to go back and deliberate as to count 5, which was the firearm possession, to see whether the government proved that I was a convicted felon. So went back out. Well, the jury went back out. The judge said, well, there's no need to take him anywhere. This shouldn't be long. And it didn't take long. It took about maybe 10, 15 minutes. They came back out. Of course, they said, yes, the government did prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. So I was convicted of the firearm count as well. So there we are, folks. I got convicted. All I heard in the background, my mom's, she just gasping for air, like, just kind of took the life out of her. And, I just want to say this, a lot of times when we out there committing crimes or doing anything to break the law, we don't consider how we hurting our loved ones, how we hurting the ones that's dear to us and loves us so much. We believe that, because I know I once upon a time I did, we believe that whatever acts we're committing, man, that's on us. We the ones that gotta suffer the pain. I mean, I did this, so they ain't gotta suffer. This on me, but that's incorrect. Because if I love you, really, really love you, then if you go to prison where you are confined and I can't readily see you face to face, give you a hug, whenever it is I want to give you a hug, cook you a meal, prepare a meal for you whenever I want, that hurts. If I really love the person, that hurts. So, to see my mom going through that was tough. I could deal with the part of, hey man, I got convicted, I'm gonna have to do something. I could handle that. It sounds sad, but I just gotta be real. I'm a soldier. I could handle that kind of stuff, but it's just hurt. Seeing her like that was painful for me. So yeah, we gotta keep that in mind. Whatever we doing in life, that we gotta consider the ones around us that love us and how that affects them. So, I was convicted. The judge, congratulated the jury on their job and excused them and things of that nature. And I was taken back to Lehigh County Prison, awaiting sentencing. So, I'm back at Lehigh County Prison. My cellmate, of course, hey man, how'd it go? I said, well, got convicted. He said, wow. So I'm sitting there waiting to get a sentence, which was April, coming up in April, a few months later. So we're gonna save that for the next part of this series right here. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope well, not enjoying the bad parts, but I hope you're learning something, because this is what this is about for me. Is a teaching moment, for myself too, because I'm learning so much about me, my thinking patterns in the past, and what I can do to eliminate that from my thinking pattern, those type of thoughts. And I hope that you're learning something. I hope that you're gaining something. Maybe you have a friend, a loved one that may be involved in the criminal lifestyle, and maybe you can grab some jewels from here and kind of share that with them to kind of get them to come from out of that. I'm hoping and praying that can help you. My video can help you with that. And so we gonna close this one out, folks. Please hit the like button. It helps greatly. Also share the video with your loved ones, your friends, your co-workers and whatnot. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, there's a little button that, you see a bell. Go ahead and just subscribe to the channel. It helps in the platform. It doesn't cost anything. You know, to be honest, it doesn't cost a dime at all. So hit the subscribe button, and I'm going to leave you as I always do. Remember that your potential for greatness is unlimited.